Well, hello everyone and welcome. Hello everyone, greetings and welcome. Let me ask you a question. What if your menstrual cycle isn't the problem? What if the story you've inherited about your menstrual cycle is really the problem? So, as many of us grew up, we were taught to believe that our bodies are an inconvenience, that our bodies are a burden, that's something to be ashamed of. My name is Dr. Carmen, and I help mindful moms prepare themselves before they begin preparing their daughters for the menstrual cycle so that the next generation inherits body wisdom instead of body shame. So we got to take a look at so-called conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom is really just wrong. Our culture tells women that strength means pushing through, that success includes ignoring our body's signals, that rest is laziness, or that your period is just something that you just got to deal with. Well, I don't believe that these messages are true. I don't believe that our bodies were designed to operate like machines. I don't believe that the menstrual cycle is a design flaw. I don't believe that the menstrual cycle is a design flaw, that there's something wrong. Instead, on the other hand, the menstrual cycle is actually part of our body's built-in sacred wisdom. Built-in sacred wisdom. And we're really doing our daughters a disservice when we don't teach them the beautiful truth about their bodies. So let me know if any of these next statements describe you. Your preteen daughter is growing up so fast, and you know that the conversations about puberty and periods are coming. You want her to you want her first experience with periods to be different from yours. You don't want to pass along fear. You don't want to pass along embarrassment or silence, but you don't really know what to say instead. Or maybe you were never taught to understand your own menstrual cycle. Or perhaps you've spent years believing that exhaustion and painful periods or just pushing through are simply part of being a woman. Well, if this sounds like you are in the right place because you might be wondering, in regard to preparing your daughter, what do I say? Like, I don't even know how to make this a positive thing. My experience was not positive. I don't know how to make it positive for her, but I would really like to. And then not only do I not know what to say, but I don't know when to say it. Like, at what age should I start talking about it with her? And when during the day, after school, when we in the car, when we, making dinner, like, when is the best time to talk about this? And how do I even make this a positive experience? I have no clue. And then how do I avoid her repeating what happened to me? Well, in order to begin addressing these questions, you've got to understand that there are two cycles at play that are shaping your life. There are two cycles that are shaping your life. So, one is your inherited, what I call narrative cycle. This is your story, the story that you've been told, the story that was passed down to you about the menstrual cycle. These are the things that have been said and have been not said, things that you observe, things that were communicated directly and indirectly, people's body language, their comments, those sort of things about the menstrual cycle. All that is a part of your story that you've been told. And for many of us, unfortunately, this story is disempowering. It is filled with anxiety and fear and hopelessness, and even being passive in terms of not advocating for ourselves with doctors. Okay, not bringing stuff up because you just think that this is normal for what a woman has to go through. And so this inherited cycle of unhealthy beliefs about periods is riddled with shame, silence, misinformation, secrecy, inherited trauma. The messages are you got to hide your period. No one's supposed to know, that you're on your period. You definitely are not supposed to complain about it because you just got to suck it up because this is what we all got to go through. Or messaging like you just got to push through, or messages that your body is just inconvenient, something that you got to deal with. Or another critical message in this is that rest is weakness. And so, this narrative cycle, this story, I want you to think about it as a symptom of oppression. Oppression is prolonged unjust treatment over a group of people, prolonged unjust treatment over a group of people. In this case, we're talking about people who menstruate. So this oppression has us feeling like there is something wrong with us. We have been hoodwinked and bamboozled into thinking that our body is a deficit, that it's less than, or that it's not valuable. When in reality, think about it. The menstrual cycle is a basic body process that's required for the human species to continue, but yet is disrespected. So if the menstrual cycle is critical for humans to continue, what sense does it make to disrespect it? Think about it. It doesn't make sense. So your narrative cycle, the story that you've been told, this is the first cycle of the two that is really at play here. This narrative cycle impacts how you experience the second cycle, which is the biological cycle. So the biological cycle is the menstrual cycle, and the menstrual cycle is actually a sacred monthly rhythm. It's a sacred monthly rhythm that offers built-in opportunities for planning, for focused action, for reflection, and for rest. And in this case, when I say sacred, I mean something worthy of honor, worthy of respect, worthy of care, not something to hide or fear or dismiss. So, this biological cycle, the menstrual cycle that is sacred, it's so important to understand it. It includes like working with what I call your inner seasons. Most people think that they're either on their period or they're not, when in reality, there's so much more happening. There are actually 4 phases that guide you on how to take care of yourself. And so understanding the menstrual cycle means that you develop some basic body literacy. I teach a workshop called Power to the Period, and it's for tweens and teens and a primary caregiver. And so there's a portion, most of the workshop is when I'm working with the young people by ourselves, and the primary caregivers come later. But during the part in the beginning where I'm working with the young people by themselves, I kind of play with them a little bit. I tease them a little bit. I ask them, show me where your head is. And they look at me like I'm crazy because, of course, they know where their head is. They point to their head, looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'll say, well, show me where your arms are. Again, they looking around like this lady don't got it all together. Show me where your legs are. And then I say, show me where your uterus is. They don't know. They don't know. This is basic body literacy, and it's an example that they don't have this basic knowledge. And why don't they have it? Because they haven't been taught. It's not their fault. They haven't been taught. And so understanding the menstrual cycle means that you understand that it is a sacred guide for self-care. It's actually a self-care system that includes knowing how to set healthy boundaries, how to remove toxic people, places, and things, and when to do that. And so if you don't understand this self-care system, you're just not in a position to benefit from the divine wisdom that's been provided to you. And so these are the 2 cycles, the inherited narrative, the inherited story, and the biological cycle. These are the 2 cycles that are shaping your life. And transformation happens when you stop repeating one cycle and start honoring the other cycle. Stop repeating one and start honoring the other one. Now, you might be thinking, well, dang, shoot, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to stop repeating the inherited story, the inherited cycle, and start honoring the biological cycle. I don't even know where to begin with that. Or you might be thinking, is it really possible to feel good about my menstrual cycle? I felt bad about it for so long that I don't even know if it's possible to change my mind about it. Well, the reality is that you've been oppressed for so long that you aren't even able to see the key that's right next to you, which will unlock these shackles of oppression. So you might also be wondering, how can I learn? How can I uncover my cycle's built-in blueprint? I didn't even know I had it. So how can I learn it? Or you might be thinking, like, how would I even go about making sure that my daughter doesn't have the experience that I had when I was growing up? Well, we addressed these questions and lots more in the Rock with Your Menstrual Wisdom coaching experience, or the Rock with Your Menstrual Rhythm coaching experience. So this is a one-on-one coaching experience for motivated moms who want to prepare themselves before they prepare their daughters for the menstrual cycle, so that the next generation inherits their body's sacred wisdom instead of body shame. So what we'll do during the coaching program is, together we're going to question these inherited beliefs about women's bodies and replace generations of shame, of silence, and misinformation. We're going to replace all that with basic body knowledge and confidence. So by understanding the wisdom of this built-in sacred blueprint, what I call the 4 inner seasons, you'll learn how to honor the times for rest, for planning, for focused action, for reflection, and for renewal, instead of continuing to force yourself to conform to a constant pace of do, go, go, got to be busy all the time. I call it hurried sickness. We are not machines. We're just not. And you'll also get the tools that are needed to create a different experience for your daughter, one that's rooted in knowledge, that's rooted in dignity, that's rooted in truth instead of secrecy and shame. And this matters now because the conversation begins with you now. You see, your daughter's first lesson about the menstrual cycle, it doesn't start when she gets her first period. It doesn't start there. We call that menarche. Menarche is the very first period, but it doesn't start there. The lessons start with what she sees today. She notices whether you criticize your body. She notices whether you apologize for needing rest. She notices whether the menstrual cycle is spoken about with embarrassment or respect. She notices these things. She notices whether your body is treated as a burden or as a source of wisdom. So long before you have the period talk, she's already learning your story. She's already learning the story. And so together, you and I will help make sure that the story she learns is worth passing on. I cannot emphasize enough that your daughter's experience of the menstrual cycle begins with your relationship with your body. So important. Now, you could do nothing at this point, and if nothing happens, you'll probably keep believing that your body is working against you. You'll probably continue trying to push through exhaustion. And when your body, or when your daughter begins asking questions about puberty and menstruation and periods, you'll do the best that you can with the story that you've inherited. So if you do nothing, it's likely that the cycle of silence, the cycle of shame, the cycle of misinformation will continue, not because you want it to, but because it's all you were ever taught. And our girls, they want to know what's going on with their bodies. Let me tell you right quick about I'll call her little Jaya. Jaya was 8 years old at the time, and her mom came to me just absolutely terrified because Jaya had started asking questions about periods and puberty and what's going on. And so when Jaya's mom was growing up, she started her period, and she actually hid it from her mom, from her older sisters, for a year because she thought that she was going to get into trouble. She thought she was going to get into trouble for having a period. So, whatever messaging she picked up at that time as a little girl, she interpreted it to mean that periods were bad. So, back to Jaya. So, I think Jaya was in the third grade, and she and her friends started the GPC at school. Now, of course, you're asking, what's the GPC? The GPC, y'all, is the Girls Puberty Club. These 8-year-old girls would meet during recess and try to teach each other what they knew about puberty and periods. They wanted to know, they wanted to be prepared. And because they weren't getting like a formal education, people weren't directly talking to them about it, they said, well, we're just going to try to teach each other. So sweet, but also disheartening at the same time. So there's a very short window to begin this work, moms. You already know that your daughter is growing up so fast, and you don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball scrambling for what to say to her. We just can't pass on sacred body wisdom when we never received it ourselves. So remember, there are 2 cycles at play. There's the one that lives in your body, the biological cycle, that's sacred. And then there's the one that includes the stories that you've been told, this narrative cycle. One deserves to be honored, and the other of these cycles deserves to be broken. The Rock with Your Menstrual Rhythm coaching experience is where you learn the difference between these cycles. So if you're ready to heal your relationship with your body before your daughter inherits your current story, go to my website. Go to www.drcarmenempowers.com/coaching, www.drcarmenempowers.com/coaching. Go there, click on the Yes, I'm Ready button, and let's get started. So if you refuse to pass inherited shame onto your daughter, if you refuse to do that, then I definitely look forward to working with you. Bye.